In a British study, students were asked whether they would allow a self-professed witch to cast an evil hex on them. About half of them said yes, for there should be no concern if witchcraft is actually nonsense. Yet the other half of the participants said no. Few of the people who said no actually believed in witchcraft, but nonetheless their perceived superstition, their doubt that perhaps the hex could be real, made them too dubious to go ahead with it anyway. So then, how about you? Would you allow a haggard woman to cast a spell on you? And I'm not talking about marriage vows. Some people are more superstitious than others. A person's proclivity to believe in astrology highlights the degree of their superstitious nature. The idea that the precise moment a person was born and the precise alignment of the stars in the sky at that time will determine that person's personality and their future. I'm about to read 5 personality traits that I believe will describe you perfectly. Keep account of how many of them you believe do in fact reflect you as a person. You have a tendency to be critical of yourself. You have a great deal of unused capacity, which you have not turned to your advantage. At times, you have serious doubts as to whether you have made the right decision or done the right thing. You prefer a certain amount of change and variety, and become dissatisfied when hemmed in by restrictions and limitations. At times, you are extroverted, affable, sociable, whilst at other times you are introverted, wary, reserved. Does that sound a lot like you? Yes. Well, it also sounded a lot like the 39 psychology students of Bertram R. Forer, when he gave them all a private piece of paper that had the exact same descriptions written on them. He told them he had personalised these descriptions based on the unique personality traits of every single one of them. He then asked the students to each rate their own description based on how uniquely it described their personality, from 0 to 5 for accuracy, 5 being the most accurate. The average rating of all the students was 4.3. Of course, Forer had lied. He hadn't personalised each student's description uniquely. He hadn't even considered their personality for a second. He stole the descriptions from the astrology section of a magazine he had picked up from the newsstand a week earlier. And every student's description was exactly the same, down to the letter. Forer had illustrated how everyone has a natural proclivity, an innate need to believe very broad statements that could apply to just about everybody on the planet, especially when those statements are complimentary or positive. You are tremendously attractive, by the way. Other research has shown that people who are born in months that typically have positive astrological descriptions associated with them are far more likely to believe in astrology than those who are born in negatively associated months. We all crave positivity in our lives, even at the expense of gullibility. In 1956, American psychologist Paul Meehl named this effect the Barnum Effect, after American showman P.T. Barnum. If you're sat there thinking, isn't this also how cold reading works? Then yes, you would be absolutely correct. Give yourself a cookie. The same kind of general yet seemingly personal Barnum statements are used profusely by so-called psychic mediums. Psychologist Dr. Susan Blackmore surveyed more than 6,000 people and found that people responded agreeably with a great number of seemingly specific statements. 1/4 of them said they had someone named Jack in the family, and more than 1/3 of them said, "Yes, I do," when told, "You have a scar on your left knee." Because the truth is, a good chunk of the population has a scar on their left knee, even if they have to search for it with a microscope. And even someone who doesn't have any such scar would still answer yes when told this pseudo-fact by a medium, because people have an innate desire to fit in. We want to fit in, especially amongst large groups of people. It's nice to fit in. That's why you tell people at parties that you're a freelance writer instead of tragically unemployed. And if you believe that the medium is right about your non-existent scar, then you will also believe him when he says that your dead Aunt Mabel has had a lot of time to think about it, being dead and all, and she has concluded that you are most definitely her favourite grandchild. There are some incredibly stupid superstitions around the world. In Colombia, it is thought that if you sit on a chair that is still warm from a previous occupant, you'll get a boil on your arse. In Vermont, windows are sometimes built at a 45-degree angle into the sides of houses because it's believed that witches are unable to fly through tilted windows. But my favourite has to be this. There is an old sailor superstition that having a woman on board a ship is bad luck. However, if she is naked, then she has the opposite effect and calms the seas. Look, love, we don't want you to be naked either, but we don't want to jeopardise the voyage now, do we? When surveyed, 13% of people said that they would not like to stay on the 13th floor of a hotel, and 9% said they would definitely ask for a new room on another level. 14% of people won't buy a house that is number 13. Whether it's knocking on wood, black cats or broken mirrors, we have all indulged in a little casual superstition from time to time. But it turns out that the reason that we do this is because some of these common superstitions have a basis in fact. Or at least, we think they do. Triskaidekaphobics, those who have a fear of the number 13, have good cause to be concerned. The origins of the infamy surrounding the number 13 come from religious mythology. In Norse mythology, the mischievous and malevolent Loki was the 13th god to sit down at a dinner party of 12 other gods in Valhalla. Loki then killed the god of light and joy, Balder, by throwing a sprig of mistletoe at him. Now, I've attended some tragically boring dinner parties, but that does not sound like one of them. There were also 13 present at the Last Supper, and Judas was, supposedly, the 13th guest to sit down to eat. There are also modern day myths surrounding Friday the 13th. There is a widely circulated story that in the 20th century the Royal Navy attempted to dispel a long-held superstition surrounding Fridays and the number 13 by launching a new ship called HMS Friday. It would be captained by Rebecca Black. Only kidding, that would just be asking for a violent mutiny. Its maiden voyage was on Friday the 13th under Captain James Friday. But true to superstition, soon after it set sail, HMS Friday disappeared and was never heard from again. Ooh, the problem with this story is that it's entirely made up. There never was a HMS Friday, and anybody caught repeating it as fact should be hit repeatedly until they stop talking. Some arguably more reputable sources, however, report that traffic incidents go up on Friday the 13th. However, some other sources have also said that traffic incidents decrease on Friday the 13th, so do take that fact with a pinch of salt, and don't spill it, and make sure to throw it over your left shoulder to keep the devil away. It has also been reported, though, that household accidents on Friday the 13th shoot up, especially when a gun is involved. If both these examples are true, however, they don't actually give any reason to be superstitious, and I'll tell you why. Psychologists have found that people who believe in unlucky superstitions, such as Friday the 13th, walking under a ladder or crossing a black cat, are far more likely to succumb to negative effects because of these beliefs. Whereas all of these superstitious events have no statistically significant effect to people who are not superstitious. They are, therefore, self-fulfilling prophecies. If one believes they are more likely to come to harm on Friday the 13th, they will become stressed, not think straight, and perhaps pay less attention on the roads or at home on that day, resulting in an accident that they unwittingly helped induce. Don't believe me that people would change their daily routine so drastically due to a number on a certain day? Well, it is estimated that every Friday the 13th, $900 million of business is lost in the US due to people changing their entire daily routine and staying at home out of fear. But the self-fulfilling prophecy phenomenon doesn't explain the fact that in the UK National Lottery, in which balls are supposedly drawn randomly, the number 13 is the least drawn ball of all time. A huge coincidence or evidence of some higher power? You decide. Harvard psychologist B.F. Skinner explained why humans are superstitious in the mid-20th century through the cunning use of pigeons. He placed several pigeons in sensory deprivation boxes, plain boxes where no outside stimulus could affect their behaviour. Skinner proceeded to drop food into the boxes at completely random intervals. There was absolutely no logic to when the pigeons would receive food. But curiously, it didn't appear that way to the pigeons. They grew superstitious and started to believe that whatever action they were doing when they first received food somehow caused them to receive food again if they repeated that action. If the pigeon happened to be flapping its wings when it received food, then it would flap its wings again until it got more food. Other pigeons exhibited more unusual behaviour. Some would twist their head repeatedly at awkward angles. Another thrust its head repeatedly into the upper corner of the box. Another would pirouette, doing spins over and over again until it received food. B.F. Skinner had made his pigeons superstitious. He concluded that there was no difference in the behaviour between these pigeons and that of a professional footballer who thinks that wearing their lucky socks somehow helps them to score more goals. Skinner had demonstrated the basic premise behind superstition: patterns. The pigeons were making connections, finding patterns wherever they could between ostensibly trivial actions and the result of getting fed. Humans do this all the time. When we knock on wood, sometimes something good happens. This strengthens the connection in our mind between knocking on wood and a positive outcome. Yet the other phenomenon, known as confirmation bias, where we only pay attention to positive outcomes, makes us disregard the many times we knocked on wood and absolutely nothing good, or actually something bad, happened. I wish I could answer the superstition question with some profound universal statement, but ultimately, the answer lies in a pissing pigeon. And you know what? I think there's a certain beauty in that. I've just launched my first book, sticker flagging it, 1,000 Years of Bizarre History from Britain and Beyond. It's witty, fun, and damn interesting. I'm crowdfunding it through Unbound Publishing. It would absolutely mean the world to me if you pledge to help make this book a reality. And in return, you can get a signed first edition hardback copy as soon as it's printed. So please, head on over to Unbound, watch the launch video over there, read the first 2 chapters for free, and if you like it, then pledge to secure your copy today. The link's in the description. Thank you so much.